Hello everyone! For today's lesson, we will talk about solving for the surface area of a prism. Let us recall that a prism is a solid figure that has two congruent polygonal bases, and it has rectangular faces. Also, there are different types of prisms, and you can distinguish them based on the shape of their bases. So here are some examples of prisms and their nets. First, we have here a pentagonal prism. And this is how the net of a pentagonal prism looks like. As you can see, the faces are rectangular in shape and the bases here are pentagons. Next, we have a square prism. The bases are squares and the faces are rectangles. Another example is a triangular prism. So the bases here are triangles and the faces are again rectangular in shape. Next, we have a hexagonal prism. The bases are hexagon in shape. And again, the faces are rectangles. Lastly, we have here a rectangular prism. Okay, so the faces and the bases are all rectangles. Now, for this topic, we'll only be focusing on finding for the surface area of a rectangular prism and a square prism. So how exactly will we solve for their surface area? Remember, when you say surface area, it is the sum of all the areas of the faces of a certain solid figure. For example, if you are asked to look for the surface area of this rectangular prism, which is 4 centimeters in height, 10 centimeters in length, and 6 centimeters in width, we have to find the area first of all its faces. And it will be much easier for us to do that if we will visualize the net of this solid figure. Now take note that since this side will be connected to this side, it means that if this is 4 centimeters, this side should also be 4 centimeters. Another thing is that since all of them are rectangular in shape, then the opposite sides are also equal. So if this is 10 centimeters, it follows that this is 10 centimeters, this is also 10 centimeters, and so on. If this is 4 centimeters, then its opposite, which is this side, is also 4 centimeters. Okay, so this one here is the bottom face. Okay, that's why we have the dimensions 10 centimeters and 6 centimeters here. Then this side here is for the height of the prism. Okay, so by knowing all those things, you can already fill out the measure for all the other sides which are missing here. Now, if we will look for the area, or so for the area of this face here, we'll have to multiply 6 centimeters and 4 centimeters. And remember that this is the height and the width of our rectangular prism. So 6 centimeters times 4 centimeters will give us 24 square centimeters. Now let's find for the area of this face. Again, this side here is opposite this side, so that means this measures 10 centimeters also. And for us to find for the area of this face, we'll just have to multiply these two dimensions. And 10 centimeters times 4 centimeters will give us 40 square centimeters. And remember, this is the length and this is the height of our prism. Next, let's look for the area of this face here. This face here has the dimension 6 centimeters by 10 centimeters, which is the width and the length of our prism. Okay, 6 centimeters times 10 centimeters will give us 60 square centimeters. Now, if we will compute for the areas of the other faces, you'll notice that this one is 40 square centimeters since this is also 10 centimeters. Then this is 60 square centimeters since we have 6 centimeters here and this is also 10 centimeters. Then here we have 24 square centimeters because this is also 6 centimeters since the opposite side measures 6 centimeters. And 6 times 4 is equal to 24 square centimeters. Now what have you noticed with the measures that we got? Correct. So we have here 3 pairs of congruent faces. And those faces are actually the opposite faces on our prism. So we have here our first pair, these two. Then our second pair, which are these two. And the third pair are these two. Okay. So once you already found out the area of the three faces here, three different faces, we just have to multiply each by 2. Okay, so the area of this face here is 24 square centimeters. Multiply it by 2 because we have 2 of those rectangular faces, and that will give us 48 square centimeters. Then we know that this side here, or this face here, measures 40 square centimeters. We just have to multiply it again by 2 to get the areas of these two faces here, and that will give us 80 square centimeters. We will also do the same for the last pair. So this face here measures 60 square centimeters. Multiplying it by 2 will give us 120 square centimeters. That means this 2 here has a total of 120 square centimeters. And once you add all those areas, you'll be able to find for the surface area of our prism. Okay, and that will give us 248 square centimeters. Therefore, to find for the surface area of a prism, we'll be using the formula. Surface area is equal to 2 times length times width. Okay, so that is for this pair here. Then plus 2 times length times height for this pair here. And lastly, 2 times width times height for this pair here. And we can still simplify this formula using distributive property. So we'll have 2 times the sum of length times width plus length times height plus width times height. So this will be our final formula. Now for the surface area of a square prism, we'll be using 2 times the sum of s squared plus 2 side times height. Now let's use these formulas to solve for the surface area of the following prisms. First, we have here a rectangular prism with dimensions 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters, and 6 centimeters. This is the height, the width, and the length. Using our formula for surface area of a rectangular prism, which is 2 times the sum of length times width, length times height, and width times height, we'll have this equation here. Performing the operations correctly will give us 2 times the sum of 18 square centimeters, 12 square centimeters, and 6 square centimeters, which is equal to 2 times 36 square centimeters. And that will give us the surface area of this rectangular prism here, which is equal to 72 square centimeters. Next, we have here another rectangular prism. So we will use again the formula 2 times the sum of length times width, length times height, and width times height. We have here the length is 10 centimeters, the width is 8 centimeters, and the height is 12 centimeters. We'll just have to substitute this given information in our formula, so our equation will be this one. Performing the operations correctly will give us 2 times the sum of 80 square centimeters, 120 square centimeters, and 96 square centimeters, which is equal to 2 times 296 square centimeters, and that will result to 592 square centimeters. So this is the surface area of this rectangular prism here. Now let's try to solve some word problems. Victoria bought gifts for her friends and family. Before buying the gift wrapper, she considers the dimensions of the gift boxes she will use. Since one of her gifts is a picture frame, she made a box that is same as Prism. The size of its square-based side is 50 square centimeters and its height is 40 square centimeters. What is the amount of gift wrapper needed to wrap the box? So it's given that what we're dealing with here is a square prism since the base is square in shape. And this square base has a dimension of 50 centimeters by 50 centimeters. Then the height of the prism is 40 centimeters. Therefore, we will use the formula 2 times the sum of s squared plus 2 times side times height. Substituting the given information, we'll have this equation here. And performing the operations correctly will give us 2 times the sum of 2,500 square centimeters and 4,000 square centimeters, which is equal to 2 times 6,500 square centimeters and that will give us the surface area of this square based or square prism, which is 13,000 square centimeters. So she needs 13,000 square centimeters of gift wrapper. Last example, Jessica is planning to paint her rectangular shaped room. What is the surface area she needs to paint, excluding the floor and ceiling, if the room measures 5 meters long, 4 meters wide, and 10 meters high? Okay. So for us to solve this word problem, let us be very careful in analyzing what the problem is asking for. In here, it was mentioned that she will be painting her room excluding the floor and the ceiling. So for us to answer this, we have to visualize the dimensions of her room. Okay. So for the ceiling and the floor, we know that the dimensions included there are the length and the width. That means if the formula in solving for the surface area of a rectangular prism is 2 times the sum of length times width, length times height, and height times width, we will no longer include length times width here because again, the floor and the ceiling will be excluded. So, what we will only compute is 2 times the sum of length times height plus width times height. Substituting the given information we have here for length, height, and width, we'll have this equation. And solving the operations correctly will give us 2 times the sum of 50 square centimeters and 40 square centimeters, which is equal to 2 times 90 square centimeters, which will give us the surface area of 180 square meters. Therefore, she needs to paint 180 square meters area. And that's it for our lesson for today. Thank you for listening.